Welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, your host. Have you been attempting to use law of attraction or hypnosis to attract financial abundance, a soulmate, or career success? Would you like to be happy, motivated, and successful? Have better health, enjoy more fulfilling relationships, overcome struggle, and gain mastery over your life? Then join me on this amazing self-help podcast where you'll unleash the power of your mind. I'll be sharing 20 years of wisdom and techniques of hypnotherapy, law of attraction, visualization, meditation, personal growth, positive affirmations, and other effective methods to help you tap into the great power which resides in your mind and become the best version of yourself. Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 102. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction coach and #1 bestselling author of Practical Law of Attraction, Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right there in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that from the app stores. And also, when you stay to the very, very end of this podcast, I'm going to give you a special gift for listening to today's podcast. And this offer is only good during the months of May and June 2020. So stay tuned for this extremely special offer. My course, Practical Law of Attraction, has been changing people's lives for the better. And today I'm going to give you a chance during this economic crisis to find out what it can do for you. And so I'm going to be giving you a special discount code of $300 off my Practical Law of Attraction course. You'll simply go to Personal Growth Club, find the course Practical Law of Attraction, enter the word podcast into the promo code area, and that course normally goes for $497. So today I have a very special guest with me, Daniel Gefen. Daniel is an international best-selling author of the Self Help Addict. He is a top-rated podcast host of Can I Pick Your Brain and Deeper Living. And he told me in our pre-interview that he's had a hard time in the past coming up with his own bio, because in the past, so many people had told him that he's not good enough. And he used to get lost in bookstores trying to find himself, or maybe he was just trying to find a better version of himself. And it turns out that all the gurus that he worshiped didn't really have the answers. So he got addicted to self-help. He wrote the book, The Self Help Addict, which became an international bestseller. And then he realized that his book was just like all the others. He had missed the mark. He didn't solve the real problem that we all suffer from. And we are still desperately searching, stressed out, and sleepwalking through life. So that's when he decided to launch Deeper Living to help as many people as he can to live deeper, richer, more meaningful lives. It's not about finding anything, but returning to what we already have. Oh, and he says his wife is a complete angel for sticking with him for the last 13 years and raising 5 kids who keep reminding him why life is so precious. And so he can be found on these websites, danielgefen.com and deeperliving.life, and then also the podcast Deeper Living. So today, Daniel is going to be sharing some of his insights on using the power of your mind to avoid burnout by balancing being and becoming. So welcome to the show, Daniel.
Woohoo! Hello.
Woohoo! Welcome. I love having guests like yourself that
that can be vulnerable and, talk about how, life wasn't always great and you didn't always have it together. And I mean, we never really have it all together. We're all just in the process.
Yeah.
Growing and becoming and being. And so it'll be great to pick your brain and talk to you about these things.
I'm excited. And it's weird hearing someone read the bio, it's interesting. Funny, you know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like when you hear yourself speak for the first time. Do you remember when you recorded your first podcast and you listened back and you're like, I do not sound like that.
I can kind of relate to that. Yeah. I've been recording myself since I was in first grade though. So
wow. Okay.
It's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a while. I sort of fell in love with my voice at an early age, which is sort of why I do what I do. But
right.
But I can relate because there are times when I just I'll be usually it's when I'm on the interviewee side where I'm being interviewed and I'm really excited to go listen to the podcast. And then I get the first 5 minutes into it and it's like, I don't want to listen to this. So sometimes it's, I like listening to myself and sometimes it's like, I just don't. So I understand. Right. I definitely do. So you're wearing your Phoenix shirt today, and here I am sitting in the outskirts of Phoenix in Cave Creek, Arizona. So tell us what this shirt's all about.
This is going to sound.
Or is it just that you're happy to see me?
This is going to sound pretty lame, but to be honest with you, I just love this shirt. I didn't know that you were in Phoenix, so that's pretty cool that happened.
It's the law of attraction.
It's a law of attraction, clearly. I stuck my hand in the T-shirt drawer this morning, and this is what I pulled out. So I put it on.
I love it. I mean, you can't really.
What are the chances?
You can't make this stuff up.
You know what? I have a San Diego shirt. I could have worn that. There you go.
You could have, but somehow or another, the universe knew that I was going to see your shirt and go, "Wow, you're wearing a Phoenix shirt." And then I was really surprised this morning to hear you speaking with a British accent, but you don't live in the UK. So how did you get here to?
I'm all mixed up. I'm very mixed up, Victoria. I'm wearing a Phoenix T-shirt with a British accent, and I live in Israel. Yeah, so it's just how did I end up where? In Israel?
Yes.
I always had a draw to it. Like I was always drawn to living in Israel. I'm Orthodox Jewish, and Israel's our homeland. And I've always wanted to move here. And I always told my wife, one day we're gonna, when the kids are all married and out of the nest, we'll retire to Israel. And about 4 years ago, I was driving in England, and it was one of those days where it was just really dark and gloomy and rainy. And I just had this very strong feeling inside of me that said, let's move to Israel now. Like, why wait? Why wait? We always say, let's wait. No, one day I'm going to go to that. I'm going to live there. One day I'm going to do this. And one day I'm going to do that. And it's like, why? Always question that statement. Whenever you say one day I'm going to, always question that. Always say, why wait? And so I went home, I drove home, and I'm like, honey, I'm home. And she's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, great. Let's move to Israel.
I love it. Oh my God. Talk about this. And how did she respond? I mean, was she on board?
My wife,
obviously.
Yeah, she's amazing. She really is. She's from California, by the way. So,
which is where I'm from. That's where I was born.
Oh, look at that. So, So I took a Californian girl out of the sun into the rainy doom and gloom of England. And so when I said, let's move to Israel, she's just like, okay, let's try it out. Now, bear in mind that we had 3 children at the time. Now we have 5, but then we had 3. They were all in schools They were all settled. We had a nice home. You know, everything was just okay, right? Don't rock the boat. And, but I just didn't feel like there was something missing. Sometimes, like, even though things seem okay, everything's calm, and like when things are not okay and there's like, you know, storms and you're going crazy. And so then obviously there's change happens, right? We're kind of forced into a situation where, okay, we need to change something. But it's when everything's going well, that's when it's hard to make changes, because you're like, I don't want to screw anything up, right? And trust me,
don't want to rock the boat. Everything's
don't want to rock the boat.
Fine. Just
everything's
just the
fine.
way it is right now.
Yeah. And I went from making a 6-figure salary when I first got married to being evicted from our home with our first child. So we went through the rocky times. Like 2008 came. I was in mortgages. And the landlady, I remember her name was Olga. She was this big Russian lady, and she was like, Mr. Gefen, you know, pack your bags and out you go. And I literally was, I couldn't believe it. So we went through the ringer, like, and we went through that whole process of, you know, having to move into my in-laws and then almost getting divorced because it was just, too much to bear and it was too crazy. And I went through a depression, and you know, it was just a whole crazy situation. And to go from that to then moving to England and then starting basically from scratch and just totally rebuilding, and then having 2 more wonderful children, and then finally getting them into good schools, and then creating a community where we just would belong to a community, which is really hard to find, making good friends, settling down. You know, I started my own company, grew that. Everything's good. Why rock the boat, right?
Right.
But, right?
Well,
but
because
when
something's calling you.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
And
when someone calls you. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Good for you. That really takes a lot of courage, because many people would just stay in their comfort zone and say, I think things are pretty good right now. I don't want to, you know, like we could just live like this forever and things would be fine. But, you know, so you have to. And what did you get out of listening to that little voice inside? I mean, what's life like now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Listening to that voice is the best thing. It served me very, very well. I remember actually when I met my wife, I fell in love straight away. I was totally head over heels. She wasn't. She was like, you're a nice guy, you know, but like, you know, there's lots of guys out there, whatever, you know, nothing. And what's interesting is we met in Israel. That's what's interesting. We came full circle because we met in Israel. I was in Israel studying, and she was visiting with her parents on a vacation. And that's when we met, and we went out a few times on a few dates. And then I did the craziest thing, and I basically got on a plane and basically flew to LA to go and continue dating her. Now, I've never been to LA at that time. I was young. I was about 18 years old. No, I was about 19. And I'd never been to America. Forget about LA. I didn't have any contacts there. I didn't know where I was going to stay. And she just said to me, like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm not going to, you know, lose you. I want to continue dating. And she's like, well, okay, just no pressure because I'm not committing to anything. I said, okay. But that voice inside of me said, this is the one. You have to just, whatever it takes, you know, you're going to. And so we ended up dating for a couple of months. I ended up crashing at people's houses until they kicked me out. And then eventually I basically used what's called reverse psychology to win her over.
Uh-huh. That is an amazing romantic tale. I love it. And it reminded me, as you were telling it reminds me of that part in Think and Grow Rich when Edwin C. Barnes said, I'm going to go work with Edison, and I don't know exactly how it's going to look to make that happen, but I'm going to make that happen. And, putting aside all rejection, everything that happened, he just committed to it and he made it happen. And you're familiar with that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I've read the book 15 times. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love because it reminds me so much of that, because the thing is that I just believe in what you're talking about so much that, that's like, in my opinion, that's the whole premise of law of attraction right there is when you make a commitment to something and you're so laser focused on having it, and there is no doubt. I mean, maybe you had some doubt, but you didn't allow it to stop you and prevent you from going after what you wanted. So I love that.
Well, the ancient texts of Jewish wisdom says that there is nothing that can stand in the way of man's desire.
That totally gave me chills.
Yeah, it's the power of desire that God gave us is so powerful that nature has to bend to that power. We are, man. Nature is there to serve man, right? Everything was created, and man was the last thing that was created. So everything that preceded man was created in order to prepare it for mankind. So humans essentially are the what you would call the masters of the universe, and so the universe is a servant essentially to humankind. Now, of course, if we mess around and we don't see ourselves as masters and we see ourselves as slaves, then the dog will bite. Okay, and the dog will lead rather than the master. And you can see what's happening now with nature, right? Nature is all over the place, because when humans are not centered. And we're not doing the right things and behaving like kings and queens, essentially, then the kingdom gets all chaotic, and that's what we're seeing right now. And so, but when we have the right mindset and we tap into the power that we have, which is the power of desire, you'll see miracles happen. You'll see nature literally move for you. It's extraordinary.
Oh, that is just beautiful. And it just validates so many of the things that, that I've known all this time, that I teach, that I talk about. And, and I love that, you said that, nature bends to our desire, but I am also going to assert that, so many people, they're not really in touch with their true desire. And that's why they become slaves. They become slave to doing things maybe for money. They could become a slave for money because they confuse that with what their real calling, their real true desire is. Oh, I have to make money, and there's no way to actually support myself or survive if I really put out there to the universe what it is that I really, really want, the thing that you really want, to the detriment. You won't even say it out loud because it's just seems so inconceivable.
If you find value in this personal growth related material, I strongly recommend that you sign up for your $1 trial to my Personal Growth Club. Just head on over to personalgrowthclub.com and get a whole month of premium Personal Growth Club video training materials, meditations. You also get 6 free hypnosis sessions that are valued at over $174, all for this trial of just $1. Even if you cancel, you can keep the 6 hypnosis sessions. That's my gift to you, and that's how confident I am that you are going to love Personal Growth Club. Go to personalgrowthclub.com and start your $1 1-month trial today.
there's two things that I picked up on. One is there's a sense of desperation that a person needs to be careful about, because when a person says, I need money, I need to have this, I need to have that, then there's a sense of desperation there's an energy of desperation that's released. Now, if you look at, for example, men and women, when a man is chasing a woman, out of desperation, the woman is running fast the other way, right? And that's the same thing with men, right? If a woman is just jumping on the man, then the man is running the opposite way, and it's like, no, thank you. True. Even if she's attractive, she could be a very attractive young lady, but if she's too desperate, and we smell that, there's like we feel the energy. But by the way, that's what I figured out with my wife. When I was chasing her, I kept saying, I want to get married, and I'd like, so she just felt this desperation. And so when I figured that out, I totally turned it off. And what I did was I said, you know what, I think we need to break up. That's what happened. Reverse psychology, the reason it works is because you use the law of scarcity, which is, oh my goodness, I might lose this, which is the opposite of desperation, right? The law of attraction doesn't work if you're desperate. If there is,
that's so true. If you're clinging and attached to it. Yeah.
100%. And so, like, if someone ever try to sell you something and that they need the sale too badly, you could sense that desperation. You just want to get out of that store. You want to get off that phone. You just don't want to. And, and what's interesting, it's not just with human beings, but nature is the same way. Money, for example, will run the opposite direction. When we chase money runs away. But when we, again, this is all about being the master, because when you are the master, you don't need to chase. You don't need to, you're not desperate. You when you know your place and when you understand how powerful you are, then there is no scarcity. There's only abundance. The world is an abundance. God created everything for us, and therefore there is nothing. There's no fear. We don't have anything to fear. It's all there. It's ours to have. But if you chase it, it will run away. That's just the nature. That's how God created it.
My cat Velvet teaches me that every day because I have this black, beautiful cat Velvet, and he was a foster kitten, had him since he was, like just a tiny, tiny little, 3-ounce, 5-ounce baby. And anyway, he's just the cutest little thing. And I will see him and I'll just want to, glom all over him and pick him up and squeeze the daylight. And of course he wants to get away or run away, or he won't even let me pick him up. But if I'm just laying there in the calm and I'm not desperate for him, he will come to me. I will attract him with just my subtle energy. And so it is this subtle energy, I believe, that is, what is very attractive to the things that we desire. But that heavy attaching energy is what chases things away. So very well said.
I have the same thing with my 3-year-old. What you have with your cat. Like, he's so cute, my 3-year-old, and I just want to pinch those cheeks, and I'm just like, come on. And he just always like, no, leave me alone. But then I'll be sitting reading a book, and suddenly I'll feel his arms wrap around me, and it's like, I love you, Daddy, and he'll give me a kiss. So you can't chase it, you can't smother them. They're just, that's just how it is.
Well, it's even the same thing in just, the ebb and flow within your relationships. I mean, if my husband is, kind of on the couch on the other side of the couch far away, and he's not really paying attention to me, then I'll be like, hey, come on over here and be close to me and hold my hand or whatever. But if he's all like right next to me and, and it's like, oh,
give you my space. Yeah.
It's like, get away. I'm hot,
Yes.
I need my space. It's hot.
God forbid I chew in my wife's ear. Oh my God, I'll get the elbow so fast.
Yeah. So it's funny. It's funny the way that works, but it's so true. It is so true. And I think if we could learn this, so this is probably getting into a little bit into the topic of the balancing, the being and becoming. So how do we balance this? How do people create healthier relationships with money, with people, with Netflix?
Oh boy, good old Netflix, our best friend and worst enemy at the same time.
I still don't have Netflix.
Oh, you're so lucky. Oh my goodness. You're probably like the 1% of the world that doesn't. No, I'm kidding. No, but seriously, it's not a joke, because a lot of people are addicted to Netflix. Before I address that, I wanted to, because I said there were 2 points that I wanted to make.
Oh, yeah.
The second thing was, it's also very important to be careful what you use the law of attraction for. Most people use the law of attraction for money. That's usually the number one thing people usually use it for. And the problem with that is that money only has existed for it hasn't existed. Put it this way: when the world was created, there was no such thing as currency. There was no such thing as money. Right. Man created money out of greed. Essentially, what happened is we all had access to all the resources of the universe, right? We had, all the fruits and vegetables and grains and trees and, fish in the sea, access to everything. It belonged to everyone. And the ideal situation is that we all live in a world where we all equally share what's available, and rightly so, because nobody owns really anything, right?
No, we're just borrowing it. Everything
we're just borrowing it.
Is just, yeah.
So came along man and decided, this piece of land is mine. Now, this is mine. And what happened is that it was a survival of the fittest. Like the person who was bigger and stronger, they took control over the land and kicked out everybody else, right? And then there was a divide, and that's how the countries were formed, and nations were formed, and then languages. And we were split. Originally, we all spoke one language. We were all one nation. We were all together. And so, without getting too deep into this, the ideal situation is that we shouldn't need money. Money is very limiting, if you think about it. It's very, very limiting. And so asking for money is one, it's if you're using that power for something that is so, I'm choosing my words carefully here, because obviously we live in a world now where money actually is very powerful. It has a power, and we'll talk about the relationship with money in a minute, but using the law of attraction for money is like taking a car, and it's like the first time you see a car and you start, taking the wheels off, and someone says, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Well, I need this, to, I want to play with the wheel. I want to go inside the wheel and do some cartwheels in it." And he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" The car. You don't know what this does, and you're like, "No, what is this?" You sit in it and you press the pedal and it goes and you fly. And what, really? So we don't know, and so if we don't know that, so money is like that wheel, but you're missing the whole thing if you think that money is it. So when we use that power of the law of attraction, the power of our desire, it's just a vehicle
to get you to your desire. And it's a self, man-made vehicle to get you to your desire.
Exactly. So there's a lot more that we should really be focusing on, and money will come as a result of everything else. But if you only focus on money, then then the rest won't come. It's just, you'll just be, and of course, there are very, very wealthy people who are very empty and very depressed and very unfulfilled. And it's because, and this is going now to the, what I said about balancing being and becoming.
Yeah.
When I wrote the book, The Self Help Addict, the reason I wrote it was because I was addicted to self-help books, and I constantly was just reading and trying to, get more and more clarity as to why I felt so small and so, powerless and worthless. And the truth is I just kept feeding that ego, that false identification. And I felt that money was the answer. If I become really wealthy, then I'm somebody. Then I'm worth something.
Right.
And of course, it's just a lie. It's not true.
Right.
And the reason why so many people who you see celebrities and people who have been very successful, unfortunately, take their lives. It's because they've reached that point where they've got to the top of the mountain and it's still empty, and they say, well, this is all there is up here. And that's why they jump. But as long as you're still climbing, there's hope. It's like, oh, if I get to that point, then. And so it's almost, you're almost better off.
Like you almost have a reason for your unfulfillment. Like you're justifying like, well, I haven't reached my goal yet. So it's still okay to be unhappy and unfulfilled. I have a reason to be that way.
Exactly. Right. And the reason why I say that my book missed the mark was because my solution in the book was just become a creator as opposed to just, a consumer, right? Because we're constantly consuming. And so the theory that the problem is a real problem. A lot of people suffer from not just physical obesity, but emotional and mental obesity. We suffer from information overload. Our brains, our minds are becoming obese. We don't even know it. See, when you see somebody
I have never heard that term before. Did you come up with that? That's an amazing term. Mentally obese.
Mentally obese. Yeah, I don't know where it originated from, but the way that I see it, and I'll tell you where it came from. I had parents. I have parents. They're still alive, thank God. But growing up, they weren't emotionally there. My father's father was a Holocaust survivor, and my mother grew up in an abusive home. Both of them grew up in abusive homes, and so they didn't know how to give love, and they didn't know how to show love. And for many years, I kind of was angry at them, But then I got to a place where I understood that they were emotionally handicapped. Mm-hmm. If you see somebody who's physically handicapped in a wheelchair, you immediately have compassion.
Yeah.
And you immediately forgive, right? If you're standing in a shopping aisle, okay, and suddenly you get a really hard nudge in the back, and you straight away you get angry, like you're about to turn around and give this person what for? Like, what are you doing? And then you turn around, you see this man in a wheelchair, automatically straight up, oh, are you okay? We get all, right, forgiving and compassionate. Now, if we see people as if they're in emotional wheelchairs, we would be more forgiving and more compassionate towards them.
Yes.
And so I started to see my parents as emotionally handicapped. They were in emotional wheelchairs. They didn't know how. Nobody taught them. They had this handicap.
They didn't know any better.
Correct. You're right. And so the term emotional handicap also led me to another thing, which was emotional obesity, which is that we see people who are overweight, but we don't see people who have so much baggage inside. And that explains so much of their behavior and how they're acting and what. And the problem with that is that With physical obesity, because it's so obvious and you can see it, so you're more likely to act upon it. You're more likely to do something about it, or at least you know about it. With emotional and mental obesity, we don't even know, can't see it. But we're stuffing ourselves constantly with information. We're stuffing ourselves. We're going on YouTube and watching hours and hours of information, reading and watching and listening. And my goodness, your mind is just like an obese person. It's slow. It's sluggish. It's tired. It feels foggy. Why do you think you feel low and heavy? And all, because just like a physical body gets heavy and feels slow and tired, and it's the same thing with the brain.
You know, and it's like, I can hear what you're saying. People have such a lack of focus, such a lack of clarity, a lack of passion, and yet they will turn to more information, and thinking they don't have enough information in order to get the clarity and the focus that they want. And so they're feeding
they're feeding the addiction. It's a cycle.
This addiction. Yes. Yeah, I can relate to that personally. I love information. I love reading. I love getting more and more information.
But if you think about it, it's like a sugar high. It's a sugar high. It's no different to eating, and then you feel bad about yourself, so you eat more.
Yeah. Now, I think you're right. I think we're not meant to just keep consuming so much information all the time. We do need time just to sit and be with what we already, what's already there, and sort through it and take time to kind of put some things into the recycle bin, if you will.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, look, if you exercise, so then you burn off fat, right? You burn cholesterol. And so, taking action on the things that you have, the information, if you're going to study something, if you're going to learn something, taking action is like exercising. Because what you're doing is you're taking the thought and converting it into action. You're converting it. And so the energy isn't just sitting there. It's being converted into something that's real. It's not just potential. Otherwise, you're just a big ball of potential. And that's also why we feel empty, because we're not here to be just potential. We're here to also create and to grow. But at the same time, and this is the being versus becoming, this is the balance. The thing that my book missed the mark on was that I was all about becoming, convert that energy, create. If you watch a YouTube video, you get inspired, go out and create something. Write a post, start a podcast, start a business, start whatever it is, just create, take that information, convert it. But the problem there is that doesn't solve the whole problem, because then you're just going to become addicted to doing.
Yeah.
And you're never going to feel satisfied either. So the balance is, imagine you have a seesaw. On one side of the seesaw, you have this becoming, this need to grow and this natural urge to want to just, become a better person. On the other side, you've got to also just be, because we're human beings. We're not human doings. So an analogy that I came up with, though, is, if you ask me, Victoria, do you have children, by the way?
Just their cats.
You have your cats. So I'll use my 1-year-old as an example. If you said to me, Daniel, his name is Moshe. So if you said, Daniel, do you think Moshe is perfect? And I would say, absolutely, he's perfect just the way he is. And you would say, well, would you change anything about him? And I would say, absolutely not. I love him just the way he is. And then you turn around to me and you say, Daniel, guess what? They've just had a major scientific breakthrough. I've actually got a formula here where if you put it in his milk, he'll stop growing. He won't grow. He will stay exactly the same until, for as long as he lives. He'll just stay exactly the same. I turn around to you and say, Victoria, are you mad? Are you out of your mind? Why would I want to do that? And then you'll turn around to me and say, but Daniel, you just told me a moment ago that you think he's perfect just the way he is. So why would you want him to change? And yet the answer is, there's a paradox in life. Life is full of paradoxes. And one of the paradoxes is that you're right. Moshe is perfect the way he is right now. But at the same time, I want to see him grow. I want to see him develop. I want to see him go to his first day in school. I want to see him ride the first time on his bike. I want to walk him down the aisle with his wife. I want to hold his child in my lap. I want to watch him grow. And yet at the same time, he's still perfect right now, just the way he is. And that's how we're supposed to think of ourselves.
Yeah.
You can love yourself right now, just the way you are. You're perfect. Nothing needs to change. And yet the paradox is, you still got to grow. You don't want to stay the same. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better human being. I want to grow. It's in our nature to grow. But I love myself and I'm perfect just the way I am. It's an incredible balancing act that we have to constantly do. And the trick is that it's like climbing a mountain. If you keep climbing the mountain, you're going to get exhausted. Mm-hmm. So every now and again, you've got to just stop and you've got to look down the mountain and say, look how far I've come. This is amazing how far I've come. And then you just need to spend a few minutes and just enjoy the view. Just say, you know what? If I stop here, it's enough. This is fascinating. This is incredible. And then when you're ready, okay, now I'm going to climb higher.
Hello, this is Victoria Gallagher. I hope you're enjoying listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast. As a way of thanking you for listening, I'd like to offer you a one-time discount of 35% off your first order at hiptalk.com. Just go to hiptalk.com and enter the code PODCAST in the discount code area in your cart, and you'll receive 35% off your first order. Thank you so much for listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that, we are going to change whether we like it or not. We're going to, and so the direction of that change is really up to us. Are we going to, choose to, grow, or are we going to choose to, change for the worse? And,
yes.
Because if we just do nothing, we're going to change, but we're not going to grow.
Right. Yes. Yes. And you can measure your growth by your recovery rate. Similarly to exercise, the way that you see.
I was literally thinking about when I run, and if I'm in the habit of running, my beats per minute go down pretty quickly.
Exactly.
If I've been doing it for a while, but if I haven't, it takes a long time for the heart to start settling down.
Yeah. Your recovery rate shows you how fit you are. It's more telling than the actual exercise, right? The how you feel after the exercise is more. It gives you more information and tells you more about your level of fitness than the actual exercise itself. And so, when, let's say if you're prone to getting angry, for example, we're not perfect. So you're going to get angry. It's going to happen. You're going to let loose and it's just going to come out. But the question is how long does it take to recover from that? So, a good example, actually, this just happened. So it's fresh in my mind. I'm a big tennis player. I love playing tennis. And I was playing with my tennis partner, and we have very intense games. Like we're both very competitive, right? So we're both like trying, the hardest to win. And it happened to be one of those really intense games, and he was up by a point, and he was one game up. So he was it was 5-4, and we were going back and forth, and it was match point to him. So if he was going to win this point, he would win the whole match. And if I won the point, then it would equal the game, and obviously I'd have a chance to then go and beat him. So this volley just went back, forth, and neither of us were willing to give up the point. Out of a corner of my eye, I noticed this man who was playing on the other court. I guess his partner hit the ball over, and he was edging his way towards our court to retrieve his ball. And as he's moving towards us, I'm staying focused on the ball. Obviously, I'm trying to win this point. But at the same time, I'm thinking, there's no way he's going to come on our court. Surely the guy has sense to know that you wait till we finish play and then you come on the court, right? But he's going closer and closer. I'm just continuing to play. I'm hitting the ball. Please don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. He was being stupid. He came on the court and just literally totally disregarded. And this was like a crazy, crazy, crazy game that we were in the middle of. Intense game. And then just literally as he comes onto the court, I get distracted, hit the ball right into the net. And I feel the blood flow. I feel everything just rising up, and I'm just getting angry, and I'm just like, oh, what the heck? It's I want to just scream so loud. And then I just started screaming at him. I literally, it's almost like I left my body and I observed myself. I watched myself just scream at this man. What are you doing? And the guy just didn't even care. He had absolutely no care in the world. And that's the worst, by the way. When the other person doesn't react, you're like, you don't even care that I'm angry. You don't even acknowledge the fact that you ruined our game. You don't even understand. There's no apology. You're not even sorry. He just literally just stayed quiet.
So annoying.
So annoying, right? But here's the beautiful part. The beautiful part is it lasted about 60 seconds of me just totally just letting it out at him. And then I just sat down on the bench, took a deep breath, and then said to myself, it's just a game. It's okay. The guy, obviously is unconscious. He just doesn't clearly not whatever. What can you do?
Mentally handicapped.
yeah, whatever. Who knows what, right? And as we walked off the court, I walked past him. Now, normally I would have said some really bad words as we left the court, and I would have spent about at least the rest of the day, if not 2-3 days, still seething about it, still being angry and upset about the whole situation. I would tell everyone, you know what happened. But I literally turned around and I genuinely just smiled at him and said, I wish you good health and I wish you a good day. And I'm sorry that I screamed. And that was it. And it was done. It was just done. But that takes a lot of work. It's constant working on yourself and a lot of it's also self-acceptance. Once you accept yourself for your imperfections, then you'll find that your growth actually is more rapid and yeah.
So what do you do? How do you work on yourself to get that, to get that self-acceptance, to get that ability to recover from something like that? Because I know, a lot of people that would ruin their whole day. That might ruin, the next couple of days. They might be walking around holding on to that. Maybe they would not even have busted out in complete explosion, but they would have just been inside kind of going, that jerk, whatever, and maybe they'd be telling their next door neighbor and their friends and their family for the next 10 days, what happened?
Right.
And they still be carrying that anger around. So what do you do that has allowed you just to be able to, recover pretty quickly?
I think a lot of it is just slowing down. It's really trying to slow everything down. And I think when we slow things down, we are able to put everything into perspective. Mm-hmm. When life is happening so fast, we just don't even notice what's going on. We're running so fast to achieve and get there and get that and do that we totally miss everything along the way. Mm-hmm. We're like running past beautiful things and we're just totally not even seeing them. Do you know how many people don't even have relationships with their children because they're working too hard to provide, try to buy that beach house, whatever it is, or win that next deal or to get that next. We're just not living. We're not enjoying the journey. We're too focused on the destination.
Right.
And so when we slow down, that's when we start to see things more clearly and we put things into perspective. Now, sometimes life will actually slow us down. For example, Corona, it was a global slowdown. It was basically the universe saying, hey, guys, slow the heck down. You're going too crazy. Just go back to your homes, sit with your family, sit with yourself for the first time in who knows how long. For some people, it was the first time ever. And just be. And sometimes it might be a funeral. I remember when I'll never forget when I attended my grandfather's funeral, and I didn't say a word for I think it must have been at least at least 10 hours after the funeral. I was just totally silent. I didn't want to speak, didn't want to say anything. And I remember sitting on the bus on the way home and looking out the window, and everything slowed down. Everything. And so many things just weren't important anymore. They just lost their importance, because when we realize what life is and what life is really about, we realize that we've created so many things that were so important. So we created so many attachments that are they're just in our imagination. They're not real. We're not living. And so slowing down is really key. Now, the goal is not to wait for a funeral or to wait for, an epidemic, pandemic or some crazy car accident or whatever, right? The goal is to take control yourself, not wait to react. So part of that is doing daily meditation. That really helps me a lot. So I do at least 20, 30 minutes of meditation every day. I go for long walks in the forest. Being in nature slows everything down. It really does, because you start to see the real beauty of the world. You get out of the concrete jungle and out of the cubicles that we've created, our prisons that we've created for ourselves. And suddenly we realize that there's a world out there. There's a freaking beautiful world out there that we're missing. And once we just slow down, we see it, we realize it. And then people start to notice that you're different. And they say, hey, what's happening with you? You seem so calm, and you seem to listen. You seem to listen when I talk. And yeah, because I'm not running anywhere. There's nowhere to run. I'm just here. And God gave us the present. There's a reason why it's called the present. It's a present. It's a gift. So
it's so true. I'm so fortunate to have I don't have the forest here, but we're in the desert, and so we have these beautiful hiking trails all around us, and like literally a mile down the street we have just sort of our at-home hike. It's the one that, it's got a lot of different trails, and we'll just go, and you can go as long as you want, and I pretty much almost on a daily basis am able to get out there, and it really does just change everything. It changes your whole perspective. It puts everything into perspective, and it really forces you to just be more inward and to appreciate and to have gratitude. And it's just like to feel the beautiful weather and to see the beautiful colors and to watch nature, and and I really think that we were meant to experience something like that wherever we live. I'm sure that most people have something like that in right. nearby that they can experience. Unfortunately not, maybe if you live in New York, right in the heart of the city.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do have parks.
You've got parks,
Yeah. So that's it's really cool. And I totally resonate with, what you're talking about with meditation and spending that time in meditation, because, it's easy. It's just so easy to lose our focus on the present moment, and meditation is what teaches you to be present. You lose your thought and you bring it back to the present moment. You lose your thought again and you bring it back to the present moment, and you keep doing that, and it trains you. And not always perfect at it. Sometimes my husband will be talking to me, and I'll be like, I was thinking about work. What, can you say that again?
Yeah.
It does happen. And so talking about that, obviously that anything that we're working on can also lead us to feeling the need to be a perfectionist. So how can we overcome that need to be perfect at these things?
I mean, recognizing, first of all, that you already are perfect in a sense that, that there is nothing that you need to change about yourself, right? I mean, naturally we evolve. So going back to that, there's a certain place of self-acceptance that once you can allow yourself to accept yourself fully and really accept yourself. And because I grew up beating myself up. I was my worst bully. I was bullied in high school, emotionally abused, and none of them could come close to how abusive I was to myself. I was my worst abuser. Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
I think it's crazy. We do that. The way that we speak to ourselves, we would never speak to a child the way we speak to ourselves.
Right. You get punched in the face if you spoke like that to another human being.
What an idiot!
Right. Yeah. What do you do, you stupid idiot? What do you do? Like, what? It's crazy. Like, imagine you see somebody in the street punching themselves in the face. You think, oh God, this guy needs serious help. Well, yeah, but you're doing that in your mind. You're punching yourself in your face. You're smacking yourself and hitting yourself. You're abusing yourself. It's like someone climbing up a 10-story building and jumping off and breaking a few bones, and then coming out of hospital and going back up the top and jumping again over and over and over again. What are you, crazy? That's what we're doing in our head. We're beating ourselves up and we're creating emotional scars. But if we see ourselves as a child, which we are, we're all children ultimately, right? We all have our inner child. Discovering that inner child and giving it the love and the acceptance that it always needed. That's it. I talk to myself now in the third person. So I'll say, Daniel needs this. Daniel did this, and it's okay that Daniel did it, because the real you is the one that's observing your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You're not your feelings. You're not even your body, right? Your body isn't you. There's a spirit inside of you, and that's the essence of who you really are. And the spirit is connected to all the other spirits in the universe, and really we're all just one. There is no separation. Ultimately, if we go all the way back to the source, we are all attached to the source, and therefore we are all part of that source. We're all one. And so that spirit, the observer of your thoughts, the one that's watching, the one that's allowing you to speak, the one that is having those thoughts. So that's the real you. And that cannot be changed. Nothing can go wrong there, because we are all perfect at our essence, at our source. It's perfection. It's oneness. It's unity. There is nothing wrong. There is nothing that can be wrong. Nothing faulty. No imperfections. And if you tap into that spirit, and recognize that, then you'll realize that everything that you do that may seem wrong, it's just an experiment. It's just, you're just working through things. If you wear a dress and you're walking in the street and suddenly a car goes by and it splashes the water, and you get all dirty. So what do? You go home and you change your dress.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get stained. Nothing got ruined on you. Your dress got ruined, so you throw it into the wash, and there it is. We're just souls wearing bodies. It's clothing. We attach ourselves too much to the externals, and the imperfections only exist in the externals. But when you realize who you are, there is no imperfection. If you're riding a horse, okay, the horse is getting all muddy and dirty, or but you're not the horse. Do you ever see a person sitting on a horse going, "Oh my God, the horse is naked"? No, because you're not part of the horse. But when, and this all started with Adam and Eve. What happened was Adam and Eve, they were naked in the Garden of Eden, and when Adam ate from the tree, and God said, "Don't eat from that tree," because it's a whole Kabbalistic explanation which goes, we could talk for hours. But Adam ate from that tree, and when he ate from that tree, he brought doubt into the world, because before that there was no doubt. There was total certainty, total clarity. In fact, it says that Adam's body was transparent. It was, and it says that the angels couldn't tell the difference between God and man. They were so similar, they were so alike that they couldn't tell the difference. That's where we're from. And so when Adam ate from the tree, he noticed he was naked and he started to hide, right? They put fig leaves. Why were they suddenly embarrassed? They felt ashamed that they were what happened before that? What, you didn't notice you were naked before? And the answer is because once they ate from the tree, once doubt came into the world, there was a separation. And it was as if the rider of the horse became confused with the horse. He thought that he was the horse. He thought the body was him. And so that is where shame comes from, is when you identify yourself as your body. You identify yourself as your external, but you're not. And when you can tap into your eternal essence, into your spirit, there's no shame. There's no guilt. There's nothing wrong. You can't do anything wrong. You're perfect.
That is a beautiful, beautiful message. And I think that really sums up the essence of what we've been talking about. And so I think that's a really great note to end on today, because we're already, time's gone by so fast. Yes. And it's just been really one of my favorite interviews so far. You're such a likable person and easy to talk to, and your message really just comes through so effortlessly and so clear. And I believe my audience is really going to enjoy listening to this podcast. So I just want to ask you just to kind of to move this forward for people, what would you like to leave people with as far as, any calls to action, anything that you'd like them to do moving forward? Obviously, you have your websites, and but just what would you like them to do to continue moving forward with this information?
I'd like to actually extend a free gift to your audience. Actually, you mentioned a free gift, so I decided that I also want to give a free gift as well. Why not?
Yes.
And I get 2 free gifts. So my free gift is for the first 20 people that go to deeperliving.life. So it's deeperliving.life. I would love to have a 30-minute conversation with them, one-on-one.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Sign
the way
up. Actually, I already got an hour, but
yes. So I'd like to do a 30-minute one-on-one call and find out about you and see if there's any way that I can help in your life. There's people listening to this that might feel like they're maybe stuck in some aspects of their life, or they want to find more meaning and purpose. Maybe they want to improve relationships. I'd love to have a one-on-one talk and see if there's any way that I can help.
Awesome. That is extremely generous. 30-minute one-on-one conversation with Daniel by going to deeperliving.life. So like you said, it's just for the first 20 people. So make sure that you get on that right away. And thank you. Thank you so much for coming here today and talking to our guests at the Power of Your Mind podcast. It's been my pleasure. We've known each other for a while now, and I'm just so glad that we finally got to do this interview on the show. And you've been an amazing guest. You have an amazing message, and I just want to thank you for your work.
Thank you, Victoria, for creating this wonderful space and a platform for me to come and to share it. And I appreciate all the listeners, whoever's still listening. I appreciate you, and I look forward to speaking to some of you soon.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your friends. And once again, be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast if not already. We can be found as Hip Talk on all our social media accounts. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and sign up for your free self-hypnosis video training course at hiptalk.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast, and you'll be instantly notified the moment the next podcast becomes available. Also, please be sure to leave a rating and a review to tell us how you're enjoying these episodes, and that way you're making a contribution toward others getting to share in this valuable information. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. You've been listening to the Power of Your Mind podcast, brought to you by HipTalk.com, Personal Growth Club, and HypnoCloud apps available at iTunes.